Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. MacDonald Carey.
Hollywood is not a place, it's a state of mind. All over the world, the word Hollywood denotes the American movie industry. It's a magic word that carries with it visions of glamour, excitement, and a fabulous way of life. Hollywood's famous symbols have become legendary. Her studios have grown from cracker boxes to sprawling giants. Techniques have changed. Progress has been made. But from the days of the silence to sound to cinemascope, the commodity has remained constant. Hollywood has always been in the business of selling entertainment. With all due respect to producers, directors, writers, and that vast army of skilled technicians, movie land's best salesmen have been the stars. Fans always have and will continue to insist on glamorous personalities to identify with and to idolize. In the 65 years since Thomas Edison gave us moving pictures, the stars have been most responsible for transforming his invention into an art and an industry. They have long deserved a Hall of Fame. Now, at last, they have one. Just a few high-speed miles out of Hollywood is a new building, and there's nothing like it on the face of the earth. Our destination is only a few minutes from Disneyland, and it's so close to Knott's Berry Farm, Buster Keaton could hit it with a cream pie. Movieland Wax Museum, a shrine to the great stars of the motion picture industry, past and present. It's a tribute to the world-famous performers who have made people everywhere laugh and cry and wonder at the magic of the film capital of the world, Hollywood. The dedication plaque says, dedicated May 4th, 1962, to the artists of the entertainment industry who, through their talents and efforts, have contributed so much to the enjoyment and understanding of the people of the world. It's signed Mary Pickford. The entrance to Movieland Museum can be compared to a time machine. Any person crossing the threshold can experience the highlights and thrills of visiting half a century of movie sound stages on their busiest days. Inside are living likenesses in wax of the greatest entertainers of our time, the immortals of the silver screen, captured forever in the exact wardrobe and authentic movie sets of their most outstanding roles. David Wark Griffith changed the Nickelodeon flickers into pictures of significance and influence. He produced and directed such early masterpieces as Birth of a Nation and Intolerance. He and his cameraman, Billy Bitzer, were the first to use the device of the close-up and the fade-out. The fabulous Marx Brothers, Groucho, Chico, and Harpo. This is a scene from their 1930 hit, Animal Crackers. These wonderful figures were created by the talented hands of master craftsmen from the four corners of the earth: Hong Kong, Hollywood, Spain, Mexico, and France. The scene in the bombed-out church is one of the most dramatic moments in the picture Two Women, starring Sophia Loren and Eleanor Brown. This dress was donated personally by Miss Loren to Movieland. It's the actual dress she wore in the picture. Her sensitive performance won her the Academy Award for the Best Actress of 1961 in this Vittorio De Sica production. While Sophia Loren was here for the Academy Awards, she came to Movieland Wax Museum and unveiled her set in person. In 1934, Myrna Loy and William Powell made the original Thin Man, a grand mixture of sophistication, mirth, and murder. The picture was a hit, so they made a whole series of Thin Man movies. Any of their fans could tell you even today their little dog's name was Asta. On a recent visit to Movieland Wax Museum, Miss Loy was emotionally moved on seeing her beloved canine co-worker. Something in the air of the early 30s made audiences eager to accept and believe occult and supernatural horrors. Bela Lugosi became a star in Dracula, And the success of this 1931 chiller sent all the studios on a wild search through Edgar Allan Poe, Robert Louis Stevenson, and other classic horror tales. The victim here is Helen Chandler, the first of many young lovelies to fall prey to fiendish monsters in the rash of horror films that were to follow. In 1932, MGM assembled 3 Barrymores, Lionel, Ethel, and John, for Rasputin and the Empress. It was lavish, exciting, and reasonably factual in the account of Rasputin's assassination and the downfall of the Russian imperial family. Even though the events depicted were true, the widow of one of Rasputin's assassins won a lawsuit in British courts. She received an immense settlement, and the film was withdrawn from circulation. One of the most sultry sirens of the 30s was the one and only Jean Harlow. This is a scene from the motion picture version of the Broadway success, Dinner at 8. Years of research and more than $1.5 million were spent on the figures, sets, wardrobe, and accessories to make this museum possible. No detail was too trivial. Even this Liberty magazine and the Literary Digest magazine are the correct issue. Nothing has been overlooked to bring your memories to life. Here are 2 famous movie stars who both started on the Broadway stage. Their outstanding performances in pictures earned an Academy Award for each of them. Katharine Hepburn received hers in 1932 for Morning Glory, and Humphrey Bogart won his Oscar in 1951 for his fine performance in this picture, The African Queen. Movieland Wax Museum has nearly 100 of the screen's greatest stars in their most unforgettable roles, and more are being added all the time. Of all the Western stars who ever galloped across the screen, William S. Hart is probably the most important. He brought a realism and rugged poetry to the horse opera, which by the time he arrived on the scene was dying in its own cliches. His Westerns had a documentary-like flavor unequaled even today. When Bill Hart rode out, Tom Mix came galloping on the scene with energy, escapism, and most of all, showmanship. He had a popularity and box office value equaled by no other star. During the 20s, his pictures literally made Fox Studios. Roy Rogers is the current king of the cowboys. He's carrying on in the tradition of Ken Maynard, Buck Jones, Gene Autry, Hoot Gibson, and all the other knights of the saddle who've ridden on the scene and off again. The transition from Western heroes to the bedchambers of King Henry VIII can be accomplished by a turn of the head in this wonderful shrine to the stars. The lavish wardrobe worn by this figure of Charles Lawton cost $2,500 and is an exact duplicate of the costuming worn in the film. We still have dozens of great stars to see, but before we continue, let's go behind the scenes and meet the founder of this unique monument to Movieland. Alan Parkinson made his fortune, then retired from business. He doesn't consider Movieland Wax Museum a business at all. With him, it's a labor of love. When he was just a boy, sitting in the balcony of his neighborhood theater, he was an avid movie fan, and he still is today. He's immensely proud of his dream come true. But to Alan Parkinson, his museum will never be finished. He keeps adding new stars because, as he puts it, they deserve the lasting tribute. The most talented art directors in Hollywood design the sets here at Movieland. They're working on such future projects as Ben-Hur, Spartacus, Fugitive from a Chain Gang, The Alamo, and many others. Here is the setting for Natalie Wood in a scene from her starring role in West Side Story. While the props are being gathered, the wardrobe being made, and the set being built here at the museum, on the other side of the world in Valencia, Spain, the gifted hands of sculptor Jorge Ballester are turning a lump of clay into the beginning of a living likeness of Natalie Wood. When the clay bust is completed, a plaster mold will be made from it, and from the mold, the head will be cast into wax. Each hair will be put in one at a time, and the wax likeness will be painted to match the exact complexion coloring. After many weeks, the finished wax figure of Natalie Wood will make the trip from Spain to Buena Park, California, and the Movieland Wax Museum. Occupying a place of prestige here at Movieland are the faces and figures of the funniest comedy team of all time. Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy were big box office and silent films. Later, they were even more popular in talkies. And today, they are followed by a new generation of fans as youngsters discover them on television. This is an accurate reproduction of the Bijou Theater set, complete with a real 1924 Model T. One of their ardent fans donated this actual 1929 license plate to help make the scene more authentic. Laurel and Hardy were box office smashers in more ways than one in this scene from their 1929 hit, The Perfect Day. They made so many two-reel comedies and features that for years they were more or less taken for granted. Everyone loved their films, but very few regarded Laurel and Hardy as true comedy greats. Only in recent years have they been acknowledged as the creative artists they really were. The pity is that much of their real recognition has come after Oliver Hardy's untimely passing. East is east and west is west, but here at Movieland, the twain shall meet. Here's Nancy Kwan in a scene from the world of Susie Wong, arriving by rickshaw at the door of the cabaret. Everything in this set was imported from Hong Kong. One of the most unique comedy drama teams of early talkies were Marie Dressler and Wallace Beery. They are pictured here in their 1930 hit, Min and Bill. Wally Beery could do comedy or drama with equal ease. Marie Dressler will always be Tugboat Annie to many of her fans. Talkies came in with a song in 1927, and just 4 years later, in 1931, the first Hollywood movie ever filmed entirely on location out of this country was made in the wilds of Africa. The star was Harry Carey, and the picture was Trader Horn. A man with a unique distinction is Anthony Caprio. He spends his time coiffuring some of the most famous, most beautiful women the world has ever known. A case in point is Gina Lollobrigida, pictured here relaxing in her dressing room while making Flesh and the Woman. Shirley Temple as she appeared in the movie Bright Eyes, doing her hit number on the good ship Lollipop. When the Depression hit Hollywood, gangster and topical films were the thing. But later, musicals and family films took over. Shirley Temple came along at just the right time and became one of the biggest child stars of the new swing to happier movies. The Frankenstein Monster. The success of Dracula in 1931 led to the filming of Mary Shelley's classic horror story later the same year. It was handled with great skill and taste by James Whale and created an even greater sensation than its vampire predecessor. Boris Karloff became a star as the monster. Ironically, very few of his newfound fans had any idea what he looked like without that masterfully grotesque makeup. In this scene, Baron Frankenstein's sadistic assistant torments the monster with fire, the only thing he fears. The R-Gang comedy kids. Their antics will live forever in the hearts of that generation who followed their adventures every Saturday matinee. career of James Dean was meteoric. This moody, intense, 24-year-old Indiana farm boy only spent 1 year in Hollywood, and yet he starred in 3 films: East of Eden, Rebel Without a Cause, and Giant. 1 week after the completion of Giant, he was killed in an auto accident. James Dean became the idol of his generation. He's a legend to his fans, just as this man was 30 years before. Rudolph Valentino had an Italian father, a French mother, and 7 names most people couldn't pronounce. He crashed the movies as a dancer and an extra and became the great lover of the silent screen. Men copied him, and women adored him. This is how he looked in Son of the Sheik, his best and his last picture. Rudy died right after he finished it. He was only 31 years old. More than 1 million of his fans blocked the streets of New York to attend his funeral. Vincent Price, the master of the macabre, as he appeared in the 3D horror thriller House of Wax. In this scene, Phyllis Kirk is about to be dipped in boiling wax by the madman, played by Vincent Price. The scene is made even more terrifying by the breathing of the helpless victim. There's always something new being added here at Movieland. This large tank will be used to dramatize a scene from the movie PT 109. A scale model segment of a PT boat was built and transported to Buena Park. PT 109, as you know, is the true story of the World War II adventures of John F. Kennedy as a naval officer and PT boat commander in the Pacific. The figures which will be seen in the display are being fitted out with authentic wardrobe and last-minute finishing touches. The figure of actor Cliff Robertson, who portrays the role of Lieutenant Kennedy, was sculptured in Spain, and the uniform, which was actually worn in the film, was donated by Jack L. Warner of Warner Brothers Studio. To give the sinking PT boat realism, special effects man Wally Wilger creates a little magic with live steam. 50 caliber machine guns are mounted, and the tank is nearly ready to be filled with 24 tons of water. A few hours later, the lights are given a last-minute adjustment, and the set is ready for the dedication and unveiling ceremonies. The guest of honor is the star of the picture, Cliff Robertson, arriving in real style in the chauffeur-driven Rolls-Royce, which is reserved expressly for the purpose of bringing visiting stars to Movieland Wax Museum. Alan Parkinson is on hand to extend official greetings. Handsome John Gilbert and mysterious Greta Garbo, the most sensational love team of their time. This is a scene from their only talking picture together, Queen Christina, made in 1933. They made 3 films together. The public knew that Gilbert was wooing Garbo in real life. Seeing one of their torrid love scenes was a little like eavesdropping. Greta Garbo was a living legend, a celluloid goddess. Her legion of fanatical adorers were called garbomaniacs. She was to her fans what a star should be. There are only a handful of truly immortal stars. This man is certainly one of them. Charlie Chaplin is regarded by many as the screen's most creative and greatest actor. There is little doubt that he contributed monumentally to the global supremacy of early American films. Recently, Charlie Chaplin Jr. brought his 3-year-old daughter here for a visit. When she saw this set, she cried out, "Daddy, there's Grandfather." As the 30s drew to a close, business at the box office was faltering for most producers. But late in December 1939, all box office problems were literally gone with the wind for producer David O. Selznick. It had taken 3 years, 13 writers, and 3 directors to translate the more than 1,000 pages of the novel into a picture. Fans of the book clamored for Clark Gable to play Rhett Butler. To cast Scarlett O'Hara, a worldwide search was conducted. It culminated in England with the selection of Vivien Leigh, an unknown British film actress. It has been said of Harold Lloyd that he had a warm-hearted understanding of the secret ambitions of ordinary people. His trademark was the young hero who always ended up scampering over tall buildings. Harold Lloyd personally selected this scene from Mad Wednesday for his place in the museum. When Western movies got to be half a century old, they grew up quite suddenly. Westerns became as popular in first-run theaters as they had always been everywhere else. In 1952, Gary Cooper made High Noon, one of the best pictures of his magnificent career. To theater-goers all over the world, his face was the symbol of honesty. His rugged features always reflected the physical life of his native Montana, even after 30 years in films. Not long ago, an elderly lady came to see this scene. She was scarcely noticed by the other visitors. After a long, quiet visit, Gary Cooper's mother left saying, "I want to come back and see him again." America's sweetheart, Mary Pickford, and the undisputed king of his time, Douglas Fairbanks. Each was a symbol to their fans, and their fans were practically everybody. Mary Pickford is probably the best loved of all movie stars from any era. Most people today remember Doug Fairbanks as a swashbuckling cavalier hero, but he became a star in what were essentially comedies. Speaking of comedies, here's an artist who made them by the dozens. If any one Buster Keaton picture can really be called the best, then Sherlock Jr. is probably that one. Buster worked out his own gags, and thanks to a long career in vaudeville, his timing was flawless. Buster Keaton never made a bad comedy, and he was one of the most inventive funny men ever to step in front of a camera. In a characteristic pose from the popular television series Wagon Train, we find Ward Bond, known to his millions of fans as Major Adams, the wagon boss. This set is one of the most popular with visitors to Movieland Wax Museum. The wardrobe was donated to the museum by Mrs. Ward Bond. "1927 was the year the talkies were born. It was also a banner year for some of the greatest silent pictures ever made. What Price Glory, Wings, Beau Geste, Ben-Hur. It was also the year of the first Academy Award, and it was won by this famous love story, Seventh Heaven. The stars were Janet Gaynor and Charles Farrell. The director was Frank Borzage, a craftsman without peer in handling love stories. The plot is simple. Boy meets girl and helps her out of trouble. They fall in love, war is declared, and he's rushed to the front, News comes that he's been killed in action, but she won't believe it. And in the end, her faith is justified when he returns to her. By that time, there wasn't a dry eye in the theater. Everything a Hollywood preview has to offer: lights, cameras, and stars. This scene from Sunset Boulevard belongs here at Movie Land most of all. The picture was an absorbing study of the old and the new Hollywood, as is the Movie Land Museum. Sunset Boulevard brought back one of the first ladies of the screen after many years of absence. Gloria Swanson is the epitome of a movie queen. She'll never stop being a star. In the film, she played Norma Desmond, a forgotten star who has lost her fame and, brooding over it, is slipping toward madness. Co-starred with her were William Holden, who portrayed Joe Gillis, the young writer, and the great star's faithful chauffeur was played by Erich von Stroheim. This magnificent Rolls Royce is just another example that time, trouble, and expense are no object here at Movie Land. Only 5 of these cars were ever built. This one was located, purchased from royalty, imported from England, and especially decorated inside with leopard fur. Gloria Swanson donated this real Russian chinchilla cape for this scene. The fur is valued at $10,000. Throughout her career, Miss Swanson carried a red carnation for good luck. One of the daily rituals is to place a fresh flower in the star's hand. This tradition has become so well known that visiting fans clamor for the day-old flower as a memento of their visit here. A cherished souvenir and a happy fan. We can all feel fortunate that years ago a boy on a balcony lost his heart to Laurel and Hardy and all the other great stars. People come here to Southern California from all over the world, even the stars themselves, to see this unique shrine and take a loving look back through 1,000 yesterdays at the greatest performers of the screen. Movie Land Museum is a majestic tribute to the stars. And to the people who come here, it's an unforgettable experience. There's nothing like it on the face of the earth.